Fantastic. Welcome everybody to this really exciting session about affordable acreage in Belize's heartland. Today, we are going to be diving into the Cayo district. For those of you who I haven't had the opportunity to meet and connect with yet, my name is Rachel Jensen. I'm the owner broker of Luna Realty Belize. And this part of the country really has a special part in my heart. It is an area that I personally purchased some land a couple of years ago, and I'm just wrapping up building up a home out there. And so when I talk about this land, this area, it is something that I am truly a believer in. I've had that real estate there personally over the last couple of years, and even just seen a boom there in the land over these last couple of years. And I think especially with COVID, what a lot of people realized is they wanted to either have that plan B, or they wanted to have a place that they could go to and really just be away from people. And as I discovered this property, I was introduced to them actually about 9, 10 years ago, forgot about this property. And then about a year ago, reconnected up with the developers here and have agreed to help them in sharing the good word about this property. So with that, we're going to just jump right in, learn more about the opportunities in Cayo. As mentioned, my name is Rachel Jensen. I'm the owner of Luna Realty Belize. I am from New York originally, made my way down to Latin America in 2012. I moved to Nicaragua right out of college and was coming back and forth to Belize about every month for about 2 weeks at a time. I was working with a real estate development company that had property in Nicaragua, Belize, Panama, Costa Rica, all throughout the region. And so I was traveling quite a bit. But Belize, every time I left Belize, I was just itching to come back. There was something about the country here, the people, the culture, that I really felt like I was building a community within. And so I was always looking at dates to come back and reconnect with the friends that I had made previously. And then at some point, I realized, why am I traveling back and forth? I might as well just move there. And so that's exactly what I did. Ambergris Key Belize is home to me. This is where I live full time. And I do go back and forth to the mainland quite often, to the Cayo district specifically. Our house is just nearing up with completion, and I do expect to be spending some more time between Cayo and San Pedro. And when I'm talking to folks, it's always interesting to hear what people are looking for. Everybody has a different set of parameters that's on their mind and what they're looking to accomplish. And, personally, I'm not really a sea person, even though I live on an island. I found that there's great opportunities out here, which is how I ended up in San Pedro. But at the end of the day, when I go to the mainland and I'm driving in the car and going towards the Cayo district, and then I come upon rivers and the jungle, it really is just a place that I feel at peace and at home. And I found that that's really what I'm finding with a lot of people when they go to Cayo district. And maybe they're looking to split some time between San Pedro and then also have the beaches, and then also be there in the jungles. And it's just a great place to unwind and really kick back and truly relax. So I do sit on the board for the National Association of Real Estate here in Belize, and I'm quite involved in the community. So if you have any questions about that, I'm happy to answer that for you. So first and foremost, we're going to be jumping into Cayo district, telling you a little bit more about this area over here. We're going to jump into Maya Spring Estates as the opportunity that we're going to be talking about specifically, and then leave some time for Q&A. And I'm just had it blocked right over there, but you can see my email address at the bottom, info@Luna Realty Belize. If you're listening to this after the live recording, perhaps you hear it on YouTube, feel free to reach out via that email address there, info@Luna Realty Belize. We'd be happy to get you more information about anything that you hear about, and also share with you the latest availability. So jumping right in, the Cayo district, and you can follow my cursor, is located right over here. Where you see the star, this is Belize City. Cayo district is this area right over here. The main town that you'll hear about quite a bit is San Ignacio, and that's just about where that pin, that dark green pin, is located. Distance wise from Belize City to Cayo district, it takes about an hour and a half. It's only about 73 miles. But what slows you down quite a bit are the speed bumps and the roundabouts and the potholes. So even though it's quite a short distance, it does take a little bit more time to get here because of those factors, maybe 2 hours, depending where in the Cayo district that you're going. I do also want to mention that Belmopan, that's the country's capital, is also located here in the Cayo district. I know some folks think that it's in Belize City, but it actually is here in the Cayo district as well. Population wise, for the whole district is about 100,000 people. So just a reminder, that population in the entire country is about 425,000 at today's date ish. But you can see about a quarter of them live there within the Cayo district. And in this area specifically, I mentioned to you that you find a lot of the jungles and the rivers. And so if you're going on some exploration trips, like cave tubing or exploration with the ATM caves. That's really neat. You'll find it here in this district. Also, there are quite a few Mayan ruins. Zunantunich is one of the popular ones that you tend to find. And there's also a really big Mennonite population. That surprises people, but there's an area called Spanish Lookout, which is inhabited by the Mennonites. And they just do incredible work when it comes to woodworking. They also do a lot in the poultry and the produce industry. And because of those factors, because of how easy it is to farm in this district due to soil and climate and whatnot, we do find it is a popular place for people who are looking to go off grid or perhaps live sustainably here in Cayo. And I mentioned to you the ATM caves. This is really neat. This is a Mayan ruin site. You go in the caves and you're climbing over the walls and over things. And there's actually artifacts left in there from the Mayan days. There's also skeletal remains, pottery shards, just a really incredible experience. If you're claustrophobic, I would not recommend doing this, but I've done it once. Maybe I'll do it again twice, but I have to say it was just unlike anything that anyone prepared me for. You're just really taking a step back in time and history and learning about the culture and the rituals of the Mayan people. So really quite interesting there. But Cayo is absolutely worthwhile to go visit. In this area, it really is home of the ecotourism. Like I mentioned, it's quite self-sustaining. You have a lot of the farming that happens in this district. You have the produce and the poultry, and you also have a huge farmers market that comes to the Cayo district. And so when people are really looking to get away and relax and be within nature, this is the area of the country that they're going to. And so when you're trying to explore, understand a little bit more about what's around, Mountain Pine Ridge, this is a really unique part of the country. It's there's clay soil there, and there's pine trees, which really surprises people, but it's just unlike anything within the country. The three big towns that you'll see in Cayo is San Ignacio. And I know a lot of the times local people, they'll refer to San Ignacio as Cayo. So I remember the first time that my partner did this, he's like, all right, I'm going to Cayo. And I'm like, oh, great part. What part? He goes, Cayo. And I'm like, I know, but what part of Cayo? And he's like, oh, that's what we call San Ignacio. And so San Ignacio to them is Cayo. So just thought that was interesting. But Spanish Lookout, Belmopan, you'll hear about Benque, that's the border town of Guatemala. That's in this area. And then, as I mentioned to you, there's quite a bit here. You have the waterfalls and the hiking and the ruins and the caves. And for me, this was something that was important as being outdoors and being adventurous, and was able to find that here within Cayo. And so when at the end of the day, when it really comes to what it is that you're looking for, this I thought was quite interesting to see where people are going. You can get these stats directly from the Belize Tourism Board. I pulled this today, so the end of January. But they do update it on a fairly regular basis directly on the website, BelizeTourismBoard.com. I think it's like /stats or statistics, but feel free to reach out if you want the exact link. And so as I was looking at this, I mentioned to you, I do a lot of work in Ambergris Caye. I was really not surprised to see San Pedro, which is synonymous for Ambergris Caye, is really where most people are visiting. 108,000 visitors who are coming into Belize go to Ambergris Caye, San Pedro specifically. Then there's also the Cayo district. So Cayo district actually comes in second place, which I was really pretty interested in seeing, because as I look at this chart throughout the year, it looked like Placencia was going to be a close second, and it is still a close second, but it is about 6,000 people difference, which makes a big difference at the end of the day. So if you're somebody who's looking to own in an up and coming area, you can even go to these different charts. I don't have them linked here, but you can go to these different charts to see what numbers look like historically in that region. And there you can see that the numbers just keep climbing for Cayo. So as I mentioned, when I purchased real estate in this area a couple of years ago, it was, affordable. I probably could have gotten a lot more affordably if I purchased it previously, but it still is affordable. And that's what I've seen. Numbers are creeping up, but they haven't yet plateaued. Like Ambergris Caye, for example, it can be pricey. It's expensive to get large acreage of land in San Pedro or on Ambergris Caye. It's an island. We have finite lands. Cayo district, because it is more farmland, it's more rural, you are able to find larger chunks of land for a less price per square or price per acre, we'll say, than you would if you're looking in a place like the islands. So interesting. I think it's at a really unique time right now where if you're somebody who's thinking ahead, perhaps thinking about land banking, this could be a great option for you. So number 2 is where Cayo is ranking. And so we did see that numbers are growing, numbers are on the rise, second after Ambergris Caye. But from the lifestyle perspective, we're seeing there's a growing expat community here. And it's a little bit different than San Pedro, right? San Pedro, everyone gets around by golf cart. In Cayo, you really do need a car in order to get from point A to point B. And we've seen that the number of expats who are living there, and going to Remos for darts is a popular thing to do in Bullet Tree, or going to check out the restaurants in San Ignacio. So there's a lot of activities and a lot more activities that have been coming up over the last year. In addition to that, if you're somebody who finds fresh produce important and you want to know what you're eating, you don't want all the pesticides and junk in your food, completely understand. Great news is that there is the largest outdoor farmers market in San Ignacio here in the Cayo district. And I mentioned to you abundant of outdoor activities, a lot for you to get involved in if you're somebody who's active and want to see what's out there. And then also, this is an important part, is the access to resources and services. So, obviously I'm on an island. It's a little bit more difficult to get things out here. Everything has to be shipped to Belize, and then from the mainland come out to the island, or produced on the mainland and then shipped out here. In Cayo, because it is a central location to the farms, you're really able to get everything right away, and it's a fraction of what things cost in San Pedro compared to San Pedro. So you're seeing that you're spending less money on the same thing because it's being produced right there in that area. Hospitals are great hospitals in Belmopan, great clinics out there in San Ignacio, and it's a very lively part of the country. So when you're looking at what's around, and this is just a real snapshot picture and zoomed in picture of some of the more popular places in the Cayo district. So the first place that we're going to be talking about through the session here is Maya Spring Estates. So that's where we have number one. You can kind of see the red pin there behind, but that's Maya Spring Estates. And that's located in an area called Santa Familia. Santa Familia is between, if you can see, number 3 Spanish Lookout and 4 San Ignacio. So 4 San Ignacio, 3 Spanish Lookout. It's located in between these two big towns in Belize, in Cayo district specifically. So I'm going to just point out a couple of these places that are important to you. So number 1, that's obviously Maya Spring Estates, Santa Familia. Number 2, that's really that surrounding area that Maya Spring Estates is located in. You're able to walk down to the little local store, grab some groceries if you want to. I would recommend having a car if you're planning to live here at Maya Spring Estates, but I think this is also a great option for land banking, which we'll get into in a little bit. Spanish Lookout. So coming up here. So this is the area I mentioned to you that is a Mennonite community. And I got to tell you, when I drove through the first time about 7 or 8 years ago, the roads are paved and it looks just like Pennsylvania. For those of you who've been through Pennsylvania before, I went to school in Western PA, and you have the long highways with really not much on either side except for farmland. And that's how it was in Spanish. Like a beautiful paved road, some rolling hills, not too big of hills, but some rolling hills and farm on either side. And I just had a very naive moment, and I was like, wow, this must be beautiful when it snows. And then I'm like, right, but I'm in Belize and it doesn't snow here. So we don't have to worry about shoveling and the road being paved or the road being cleared. So I thought that was just definitely a blonde moment. But you realize when you're in that area that it really has a feel of like you're being back in North America. And there they do tend to have the larger stores and really everything that you can need. You find a lot of people are going to Spanish Lookout, and you can typically get it at a great price. At San Ignacio, going back here to number 4. So this is really one of the primary hubs of the Cayo district. Santa Elena, I don't have it marked here, but that is a sister town to San Ignacio. So you'll often hear people say Santa Elena, San Ignacio. Number 5 I want to mention is Zunantanich, which is the Mayan ruins. So you can see how close you are. Also the ATM caves I mentioned to you before, that's the Mayan ruin site there. So you have a lot within the area, and you can kind of see, I didn't mark it over here, but I mentioned to you Mountain Pine Ridge, which if you follow my cursor is in this area over here. We've seen Blancano, this area over here. It's very easy to get to from this area. As you can see, there are primary roads going through as well. And then I do want to mention also Bullet Tree, number 6. So Bullet Tree is probably about 7 minutes away drive. And this is another big, primary town here within the Cayo district. And then following the Western Highway, we're going here to number 8, which is Belmopan. This is the capital of the country. So if you're planning to spend some time down here, you're not yet a resident, you'll have to get your passport stamped for 30 days. And that allows you to be here in the country legally. Every 30 days, you'll have to go. I know that if you don't live in Belmopan and it takes you a little bit of time to get there, it's probably about 45 minutes to go from from Maya Spring to Belmopan, they'll typically stamp your passport for longer, but we can talk about that more offline if that's something that you're looking to do. So you find the U.S. Embassy here as well. So if you ever need to renew your passport while you're in country, all of that can be done in the Belmopan area. So mentioned too, I'm very bullish about Cayo. I also do believe this area specifically has incredible potential to see some serious appreciation. Spanish Lookout, so you can kind of see here the roads. I mean, you look at it, it just looks like it's back in the States, but Spanish Lookout is the Mennonite hub, and this is where you will find a lot of the farms and a lot of the dairies being produced out here, and poultry and just farming generally. They do a lot of woodworking as well. So sometimes you'll hear people refer to wooden houses as Mennonite homes. Doesn't mean they live in them, but they are something that are being produced by the Mennonites quite regularly. And this town is only about 20 minutes from Maya Spring. If you see MSC, that means Maya Spring Estates. And so it's very close to get to this area. The other town that's right on the other side is San Ignacio, and this is also only about 20 minutes away from Maya Spring. So again, a really central location, and you have two of the best towns in Cayo right around the corner. This is an area, this is a picture from the farmer's market. So you walk up those stairs, and then they do have the farmer's market here. It's really big on the weekend, but you will find there are vendors there during the weekday as well. So again, just coming back into the location of Maya Spring, focusing in here in Santa Elena and between, as we mentioned, Spanish Lookout and then also San Ignacio. So let's enter Maya Spring Estates. All right, this community here, I was there a couple of weeks ago. I think prior to that, I drove through maybe about 6 years ago. And I really, at that time that I drove through, was not familiar with the area at all. And when I ended up purchasing the property that I have, I honestly had no idea that this property was as close as it is. And when I was there a couple of weeks ago, I went to go check on the house and timed it, and we were about 6 minutes apart. So it's a really close area. And I just, when I drove in, I just realized that it's a place that I wish I knew about earlier, because it is a property that I would have considered. For me personally, I'm not planning to live out in Cayo full time, do the whole back and forth thing for a bit. But realizing, as I'm building a home out there, I need a caretaker, right? I'm not within this community like Maya Spring is. So I need to have somebody living there on property full time. People in Belize are opportunists, right? And if they see a house that hasn't had people in it for a couple of weeks, they'll go in, help themselves to the TV. Oh, that blender looks nice. Let me take that with me. And again, opportunists, not anything bad, but they are looking to see what's around. But when you're in that community, when you have that community element, you really have that level of safety that you just truly don't have to worry about if you're building a single family home or a standalone home that is not within a community. And as I was driving through, it is about 100 acres. It's a large parcel of land, and there are only 20 parcels within this community. So parcels range in size from about 3 to 4 acres up to about 5, 6, 7 acres. And so it's nice because you have your land, right? You can do what you want on your land. You can build that workshop, you can have horses, you can build guest houses, but you don't necessarily have your neighbors peeping in the window right there next to you, right? You have that space and distance. And so it's a really unique concept. This is something that I get asked quite a bit, is asking about communities with this larger acreage here. And it's really, really hard to find it. And especially one that's being maintained to the standards that we tend to look for when we're looking into a development. So at this point, more than half of them, or about half of them, are sold. And there is one that's currently under contract. So at this point, 9 of them remain. I can certainly share my favorites with you, but I think they all offer something a little different depending on what somebody's looking for. But there is shared space here, and I'll show you a map in a moment, but there is shared space where you have community parks, ponds, a pavilion, palapa, where you're able to stand. It's a second story, so you're able to stand, look out in the distance into the Maya Mountains, and it just truly is incredible. And some of the natural features that you find here are the skylines. I'll show you more pictures, of course. There's the creek and breezes, and you just have a really beautiful, beautiful location. And so when you're here on property, you can expect that community element. There are folks who do live here full time, but yet you have privacy. And I think that's one of the biggest factors that goes into this. We don't want everybody knowing our business all the time, right? We don't want somebody just being able to peep into the window because the houses are so close. But here you have the space to do it with it what you want. And this picture that you see here, both these pictures are taken from Maya Spring. This bottom one here is taken from the home on lot number 2. And you can see that they've just done an incredible job with that outdoor space. In Belize, we live outside, right? So they tend to have smaller square footage of the interior, but then taking up a tremendous amount of exterior space to be able to have that element of living outside. And so if you're somebody who's been thinking about owning property and perhaps you don't necessarily want all those restrictions that come with an HOA, this could definitely be the right property for you. But really thinking about what you'd like on your property. I think that a lot of folks I've been talking to are looking for farmette sort of concepts where they can garden or do some farming that's self-sustaining for themselves, hence the name, and really have a place that is theirs. And so we do have some people who are interested in having stables and putting horses in. I think the one thing that they ask is please don't do any pig farms. Pigs tend to get a little bit stinky, but horses are more than welcome to have those there on the property. A hobby workshop, if there's something you've been wanting to pick up over time, this could be a great option for you. If you want to put in a bed and breakfast or a larger pool or really whatever you're looking for, you're able to do that on this property here. All right, let's go through the site map. So where you see those little smiley faces, those are properties that are still available. The homes indicate homes that are currently constructed or under construction. Number 3 is currently under construction right now. They do have a 2-bed Mennonite guest home there. So the Mennonite home that I talked about before, the wooden homes, and they are currently building their private residence, but they also have a garage there too. These people will likely be here full time, but do have the choice to go back and forth. There's one owner for lots 19 and 20 rather, and they do have a home there. They live here full time. 15, there's a guest house that the fellow is going to be using as his primary home. He comes and goes. 5 is full time, and 2 is most of the time, but goes back to Florida to visit grandkids. So you could see that the ones that don't have smiley faces or homes, those aren't built up yet. They're not developed. And the nice part is you don't have a build timeline requirement. So this is great for those who are thinking about land banking, holding on to property now, perhaps selling it later if you choose, or perhaps you want to build on it. Maybe you come down and you're like, you know what? I'm not going to be a really bad investor right now. I'm going to actually own this to build something on it and live in it. You can always do that too. So number 14 is the one I mentioned to you. There were 10 available. Number 14 is under contract at this point. But there are other options depending on what you're looking for. So number 1, this lot is sold, but if you can follow my cursor, you go through the gate, which is down over here, continue up, and then where you see the tan line, that is the public easement, that is the road. And so if you can again follow my cursor on the north side over here, this is empty land. On the east side, this is a teak farm. Down over here, there are some houses. They're more so along over here. And then if you can follow my cursor again on the west side, this is a cattle pasture. So you do have some great views around you. If you're looking for just having that continued pasture view, or just having, knowing that there's not going to be any large development, I can't guarantee anything, but we'll say having the peace of mind that there may not be development over here, then this could be a great spot. And I'm going to show you some aerials as well to get some concept of what it looks like. But just as a confirmation, all of this has been strata titled or freehold titled. So you do get titled to your property. In addition to that, it's all been recorded. The site map, everything's been recorded with the government. And there are existing residences, roads, power. So this is not an off-grid community. However, you can choose to be off-grid should you choose, right? I think I said that twice, but you can be off-grid if you want to put those solar panels in. We also recommend water catchment systems, cisterns, because there is no public water going over there, but you can use those water catchment systems, which is quite common in this part of Belize. So just to give you some aerial perspectives, again, the smileys are the ones that are available. So lot number 4, and you can see over here, I mentioned to you, this is really just a pasture over here. So really not much going on, just farmland, not even farmland, but just greenery over here. 4 is the only one that is available at this point, and I'll just go take a step back. So number 4 over there is 3 acres. And so you can see for the ones that are available, they range 4 acres for lot number 7, 5 acres for number 9, close to 4 acres for 10, and then just continue there up the pipeline. The smallest one is lot number 17 at 2.92 acres. And that's this area over here. But again, tons of space, and just depending on what you want to do with it. Number 9 is probably one of my more preferred lots. I just like the length of it. And I like that there's no road going up the side, right? You have that little entry over here, as we can see the road access here, but you have a lot of space to really do with it as you please. And that's lots 7, 8, and 18, but 7 is the only one in this grouping that is available. And then here now we head towards the northern part of the community. The absolute best lot, I would say, from the view perspective is lot number 13. This is the highest property there within the community. You have mountain views going down the property line, and then you also have mountain views over, if you can see my cursor in this area over here. So it's just absolutely stunning, and that one would be my recommendation. Now, do note this one doesn't really have the greenery that we see in trees. There aren't ample amount of trees. It's actually quite cleared. But the nice part is that gives you the flexibility to put in the sort of landscaping that is the most desirable to you. So each of them have pros and cons. There was somebody I was chatting with, and they were looking at both lot 9 and 10 together. That would give them this whole chunk of the west side of the property. There's the creek that runs through. That's where you see some more of the grouped trees together. So there's that creek that runs through here. So they wanted to have ample creek frontage, and not lot number 9 and lot number 10 would do that for you. So you can see they're just each a little bit different depending ultimately on what your goals are and what you're looking for within the property. On site at this point, there are 5 residences ranging from Caribbean cottages to haciendas. You have the flexibility to do with it should you choose and as you desire. Here's an example of the Caribbean cottage. If we just go back here, you can see a little bit. Oops, it looks like this is trying to get subtitles. And I'm not sure what's going on. There we go. Okay. Sorry about that, folks. And then continuing on, I don't know if you can see this one, and just move this over here. All right. So continuing on, there's the community pull-up I mentioned to you. That is on the 2nd story grilling area over there as well. And so as you're looking out in the distance, this is open for everybody to access. And there you have the views of the Maya Mountains there in the background. It's just so incredibly stunning. Here's a view of lot number 2. This is that Caribbean home that we looked at before. This is again the view from the Palapa. This homeowner owns all of the land here in the front of them. And then also on the side, they did end up acquiring 2 parcels as well, because they wanted to be able to really control what was built around them. And then again, from lot number 2, the view from their veranda. So I mentioned to you as we were looking at the property line, the south part of the property, and there are a couple of homes there, but you really can't see those due to the greenery. A couple of points that I wanted to mention to you is I know when you're thinking land, you tend to think expenses, right? And in the States, when you have larger parcels of lands, there are more expenses associated with it. In Belize, property tax for this property, it's $5 US an acre per year. So if you have the largest one, we'll say it's 7 acres, you're paying $35 US a year in property tax. So I don't want the size of the parcels to scare you. In fact, it's just incredibly minimal to keep it up. And then if you are going to have somebody there to take care of your land, you can hire somebody full-time should you choose, or you can just get lawn mowing when you need, which is about $3.50 an hour for somebody to mow. You know, they're there for maybe a day and then half a day, and then come back every couple of weeks. So it's really not that substantial upkeep that we do tend to think about when we're looking in North America. In addition, this is really unique for a community is that there are no build timeline requirements and also no building restrictions. A lot of times there are restrictive HOAs, so it doesn't necessarily give you the flexibility to really have what you want to have, but here you don't have that. So let's say you want to do what I'm saying with land banking, and land banking is really when you just own the land, hold on to it for a while, and then from there, you can flip it, you can sell it, you can pass it down to heirs, but a lot of flexibility. And then there are, the developer is offering financing on a few specific lots. If you can follow my cursor, number 4, number 10, number 11, number 12, number 16, and number 17. So he is not offering financing on number 13 or number 7 over there. So, and number 9. So just heads up, 7, 9, and 13. He's not doing financing on, but for the remaining ones, he will offer financing on. So a nice 50% down. It's a shorter term of 3 years, and then 7% interest. And there's no penalty for early payment or early prepayment. So you do have that nice advantage there. Oh, and I wanted to point out to you a couple of the other features within the community. You can see here, it's like the textured green color. This is the community park. And then there's also the creek that runs through the property, and then also the ponds over here. So it really is just a really beautiful, beautiful parcel of land, with the northern part of the property, specifically lot number 13, being elevated. So you have that really incredible view looking down the property line. So this is really a place where you can start to live again. And I know when I went there and was visiting, it's just like, And one of the homeowners there, Margaret, was telling me how they had the green parrots flying by just the other evening. They've seen the toucan. You can see the toucan there. They've seen toucans there. If you're a birder, this is an incredible spot to be. And what I like about it is that it's 100 acres, but they're larger parcels of land. So you're really able to control the community growth, right? And you're able to have that space and build there what you want to build there ultimately. The bottom right picture is from the community gardens area, the community pond that you'll see, and that's over by the Palapa. And that's the pavilion that we were chatting about earlier. So if anybody has more information, please do feel free to reach out. I did have a couple of questions come in via email for folks who weren't able to join us live. So I'm going to just read those and answer them. We did cover some of them here in the presentation, but I just want to let folks know that we did get the questions and we will go through them. One of them was about a build timeline. And as mentioned, there is no build timeline requirement. So you are able to build when you want, or if you never want to build, you don't have to do that either. And just one point too, I want to mention that this, excuse me, this lot is from lot number 13. So if we just go back for a moment, this one over here, lot number 13, the one that's elevated, this one you can see as you're at the highest point of the property, and you can look over the tree line, you see the Maya Mountains. And then on the other side, the northern side, you have the mountains over there too. So it's just a stunning property. You can see it's a little bit more expansive. And there's not as many trees there, but that gives you the chance to put in the type of trees that you want. And landscaping you will find is really quite affordable there in the country. I'm having somebody asking about rentals. If you want to rent out your property, you're more than welcome to do that. If you want to build some rental cabanas, you're more than welcome to do that. I think if you're trying to build mini development within this property, that is not going to work, but really for your personal well-being and what you're looking for. In addition to that, I had people asking about financing. So I'm going to just go back here to the developer financing section. And as mentioned, there is the lots that are available for 50% down. And then it is a shorter term at 3 years with 7% interest. And just to recap, it's lots number 4, lot number 10, number 11, 12, and let me move my picture there, 17. So you can see there, and 16, there you go. So you can see there what the overview is, and those smiley faces are the ones that are available. I had somebody ask me what the purchase process looked like. So what you would do is let us know what property you're interested. We'll send you a reservation form. With that reservation form, you'll send the first 10%. Then we'll send you the paperwork to complete. And then we do ask for the paperwork to come back within 7 days. It's quite easy. It's just a few pages for you to sign off on. The balance of that first 50% would be due, or if you're paying on a lot that doesn't have financing, then the balance would be due at that point as well. So it's really quite straightforward. If for some reason the due diligence doesn't check out, maybe there's something with the title, which there isn't, but just thinking about any scenario, if something doesn't check out from that legal perspective, then you can get a refund of that 10%. But if you just change your mind, then that 10% is not refundable. So just something to bear in mind. I have somebody asking about discovery tour weekends. We don't have discovery tour weekends per se, but if you're planning to come out to Cayo, let us know. We're happy to show you around and show you the property and introduce to you what's here in this beautiful area. Alrighty, folks. Well, that just wraps up the questions and answers that the questions that I received via email. If there's anything else that pops up, please feel free to reach out to me, info@Luna Realty Belize. There's my phone number there too, if you prefer calling. And again, this is Rachel Jensen, and I look forward to seeing you in Cayo soon. Bye, everyone.